Hello, welcome to Fun Stats. Today's topic is the relationship between happiness and heredity. If you won a lottery, you would be happy. But will that happiness continue until the end of your life? Not so long, because you will be accustomed to new circumstances. Or, if you were fired at work, you will be sad. But will that sadness continue until the end of your life? You will recover from it and find another job. All of these are thanks to our ability to adapt to external circumstances. We have gained that in the evolutional process. That leads to the fact that most of our life events cannot have everlasting impacts on us. By the way, we also know that survey results of life satisfaction show some variations depending on the respondents, from the lowest satisfaction to the highest. If every event cannot have a long-time lasting impact on us, why does this happen? Why do people feel their happiness in a different way? One of Lykken's studies has handled this issue. This video shows the outline of that study. So, why do people feel their happiness in a different way? What is the factor making people feel pleasure differently?
Is the factor the education? Highly educated people might feel more happiness.
Wow, I'm surprised. I suppose the character appearing in this video was only me.
Haha. Hello, I'm Joanna.
Sorry, I was so surprised, and turned into another character, even I didn't know. Anyway, the answer is no. According to Lykken's study, education accounts for only 1 or 2% of the variance in the well-being assessment.
Then, how about the jobs? Highly respected professionals might feel more pride and happiness than unskilled workers.
That's interesting. But, after classifying people into 7 groups, from professionals to unemployed, all groups' self-content ratings were almost the same, surprisingly. This means that, whatever occupations you have, it would not make any difference so much. After all, what is the decisive factor for our happiness? The conclusion of Lykken's study is that our happiness is determined 50% by genetic factors and 50% by effects of experience, unique to each individual. Before going into details, let's review quickly the basic ideas of twin studies. Assume John and Paul are twins, having 100% same genetic information, so-called monozygotic twins. They took the same IQ test. Scores earned were 90 for both. Here, George and Ringo are twins, but share only 50% identical genetic information, so-called dizygotic twins. Scores for the same IQ test were 80 for George and 110 for Ringo. Now, what can we infer, based on their circumstances and scores? Heredity may have affected their IQs. Because John and Paul have the same genetic information, but George and Ringo do not. The Lykken study is based on more than 1,400 pairs of twins' responses in Minnesota. According to the study, twins like John and Paul showed remarkably high correlation of 44%. On the other hand, the correlation of the twins like George and Ringo was 8%. This means that genetic factors have significant impacts on our ability to feel happiness. More surprisingly, this tendency was not changed, even if twins like John and Paul were raised apart. Even if they were raised in a distant place by different families, the happiness they feel would be similar. This enforces the theory of heredity. So, based on the Lykken study, what can we learn today? Roughly speaking, we know that the genetic inheritance affects our appearances and physical abilities to some extent. Based on this, it would be no surprise for us to hear that the genes can affect our abilities to feel happiness. If we are worried too much about the things we cannot change, that would be a waste of time. Fortunately, there is still 50% left, which we can change. So, today's conclusion is this. Focus on the 50% you can change. The portion is still significant enough to affect our lives and happiness. I hope you enjoy this video. Please do not forget to subscribe. See you soon.